Hello and welcome back to part 11 of this series. In this video I will show you how to add a rain visor, a general and effect visor to your map as well as distance fog. The rain visor, like any other particle advice, is relatively easy to make. You just need a zone info, so go to actor, info, zone info, place it in your map. Open up the properties, and the first thing we're gonna do is obviously set the brightness because I want some light, and under this zone FX category there's a property called bloom enable. You have to set it to true, and then under the splatter textures we can select our textures, which will be displayed on the HUD visor. So the textures can be found in the HUD textures container, and then under the category visor zone FX you will see three raindrops textures. There are also like dirt textures and so on, so you could also, for example, make a sandstorm, and then instead of displaying the raindrops to your visor, you could like draw the dirt textures. Or if you go to visor damage, you could also choose those cracks and scratches. For example, as I mentioned previously, like if you have a sandstorm or whatsoever. Let's stick with the raindrops. So now on our sound properties, and the splatter textures property, click the add button, select the first raindrop or the first texture you want to add, and click use, and then do it again for the two other raindrop textures, so they alternate between each other. So it's like not a real strong repetition, or at least you don't really like see the repetition in the textures unless you look at it very closely. So after we added our textures, there's also a property called splatter wiper delay, which specifies like in time and how many seconds the screen wiper will clean your HUD from those raindrops. Usually like 10 seconds. 10 seconds is like a good value to like play this animation cleaning your HUD visor. There's also splatter scale max and splatter scale min properties. Those scale the texture on your screen. You should play around a bit, but for the rain visor or the raindrops, the max scale should be like 0.3, and the min scale should be like 0.1 for those like the default values the original map creators used. And that's it. There's also the last property, splatters per minute. So by default they use 300s, which means that each minute around like 300 splatter textures will be drawn on your screen. So depending on whether you want like a light rain or a heavy rain, you would like have to adjust it. But this is those properties are like the default ones used on Camino. So that's like how you create a like a rain visor effect. Not necessarily limited to the raindrops. You could, as I previously said, you could also use like the dirt textures or cracks or like the blood and so on. You can also like obviously create your own custom textures. The second thing is the fog distance. Like I said in the example with sandstorm or like heavy rain, you want to limit the distance for the player to look around. That's also relatively simple. We just stay in our zone info property, and under this zone info category, there's a property called bDistanceFog. Set it to true, and then going to the zone light category, there are 3 properties which we are going to use. The distance fog color, where we can choose a color for the fog. For example, with my rain visor, I'm gonna use like a somewhat blue color to emphasize like a heavy rain situation where you can only like view a certain like distance. You can also like use gray or like some orange brown tone for sandstorm or whatever. Click OK. And the distance fog and the distance fog start tell like how close the fog will appear to your viewport. So for example, if you're not sure what those or what the values should be for your map design, you can simply test it out in the editor. Hit the build button, and you can already see a bluish fog in the distance. And if we like move the camera closer to it, it will like go away, obviously. And the further we go away, staying within the room, the more it will appear. We can simply adjust it. Open up the properties again. For example, the distance fog start, for example, change it to 1500, and you can already see the effect. It's much like closer to the viewport, the camera. 500, for example. The distance fog end can be used to like change the like the saturation or the overall effect strength of the fog. So going like lower on the fog end will increase the strength. Although this kind of looks silly, you would like to have a more realistic look to it. It's like, yeah, you'll have to figure it out yourself for your map. Just one advice or like one thing you should not do is set the distance fog end value lower than the distance fog start. Otherwise, you will break the rendering. So that's like the distance fog end value always have to be bigger than distance fog start to some degree. Not sure how much, but you can see like the rendering is broken. I guess 500, 1000. Yeah, okay, 600, but it's not looking really good, and it's still broken. So yeah, that's how like you create a rain or like an effect visor and a distance fog. Okay, so let's build it. Save. Open up the map. And as you can see, the raindrops being drawn on my screen, on my viewport, on my hard visor, and the wiper. So every 10 seconds the wiper will spawn and clean up the screen. And yeah, that way you could like simulate some sort of heavy rain or like sandstorm environment or whatsoever. So that's it. See ya.